Thanks so much for joining me, Jason. This is awesome to talk to you. You've done so much with MakerPipe. It feels like in the last little bit that it's a great opportunity to talk to you and hear about all your projects that you've been doing.
Yeah, I last summer I was visiting a friend and he had a few leftover T connectors from something he was building in his garden and he gave them to me. He'd been talking to me about them for about a year and he said, "Here, just take these with you and see what you can do with them." And so I just started tinkering with them and just really fell in love with the idea that I could put something together and then take it apart and put it back together in a different way.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Thanks to that friend for turning you on to MakerPipe a little bit. That's awesome to
Yeah.
hear.
hmm
And I mean, primarily what I've been seeing from you and what you've been working on is Hank. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
So Hank's my Honda Element. It's 2004. I got him about a year ago, just over a year ago, and have just been looking to see what I can do with them. There's a huge community out there of people online modifying these things, turning them into mini campers, traveling, living out of them, traveling everywhere. And it just, it gave me the freedom to start to do some of those things again when I purchased him. So I had spent a lot of time camping when I was younger and fell away from it. And I picked him up last March. And then by July, I was in Colorado, spent about 3 weeks out there and just without any modifications, just sleeping in the back, a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad, and came home and said, "Wow, there's a lot that can be done to this to improve this experience." And MakerPipe seemed like a good fit for that.
yeah, I can definitely understand that. The element seems like such um a sleeper camper van. No pun intended, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's definitely stealth. There's a lot of room. The first time you get
hmm
in one, you're like, okay, this it has more utility, right? Than meets
hmm
the eye. So that was
Yeah.
was that did you have ambitions of making a mini camper, or did Hank come along the element and then it kind of was like a secondary sort of thing?
So I guess no matter what vehicle I've had, I've always tried to make the most out of it. I mean, I had a tiny little Acura RSX with a hatchback, and I was specifically fitting things in the back. I just like to be mobile and have things at my fingertips. And so, I had a collapsible wagon in it at that point because my kids were young. So I guess, I didn't buy it with the intention to turn it into a camper necessarily, but I definitely planned on taking some long road trips in it and seeing what was possible in
Nice. Yeah, I'm a secret fan. Don't tell anybody, but I'm a secret fan of minivans. I
it.
think
Uh-huh.
that I've had two of them in my lifetime, and people go like, "What do you have a minivan for? You don't even have." I mean, I bought one out of college, so and I
Yeah.
used that thing for everything. It was like mobile workshop. It was camper van. I just like the utility. So I share that with you, Jason. I get
Okay.
excited about it, and um, it seems like there's unique challenges that go along with making the most out of a vehicle like this. I mean, sure, you've got you see all the sprinter van, the van life, right? These conversions,
hmm
but that road has been traveled. That solution has, I feel like, been overdone. But to see those solutions for a different vehicle, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just haven't been exposed to it. But do you feel
hmm
like there's unique solutions for elements, or have you had to kind of pave your own way?
There's a lot of people out here who do this. There's some great people who do conversions out of these, and they primarily are using plywood to do it. And I work a lot in wood. I just thought that this would be a really nice mix with the maker pike because I'd use it as a daily driver. I also use it for solo trips. And when I'm on a solo trip, I don't need any of the seats in the back, and I would like to have my bike back there with me. Sometimes it's just two of us traveling, and so I want a double bed for that. And other times there's three of us traveling, and so I have to be able to fold everything up and still use that third seat. And so that's really where the challenge came in, to have something that would be functional in all of those situations.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's got to convert between, a daily driver and then a weekend trip or a longer trip and all everything in between. Bike carrier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So switching the bed from a single person to a double person was the biggest challenge that I've run across. And then also having something where I can still have the third seat in there if I need it to be. So it had to be small, but then spread out to be wide enough to be able to take two people.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And so, contrasted against working with wood and kind of solving these problems with wood, how has the experience been different using maker pipe versus something out of wood?
Oh, I was interested originally with the pipe frame because I was looking for something that could be a little bit thinner than necessarily the wood that I would be using. So I was looking to save a half an inch here, a half an inch there in order to raise the bed platform up off the ground and still be able to access stuff underneath of it. So that was what's primarily attracted me to it. And then once I got started with the ball rolling, I thought, let's do just about everything I can out of this material. I want to do it as much with Maker Pipe as I can. And the community that you've built has been a real inspiration because every time I watch one of these Maker Monday videos, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll need to incorporate that. I wonder if there's a way I can pull that in. So it's a passion. I'm enjoying it and I'm learning a lot as I go along. I found some limitations to it, but I just keep looking for ways to overcome those.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and thanks for the feedback on the community. And you've got your profile here. You've been an active part of the community, sharing some things that you've done and different hacks. So definitely, thank you for contributing and being part of that community. Because the ways that people use our simple bracket and how they add to like the whole ecosystem really is great, and I can't thank everyone enough for doing that because just you don't run across all these solutions, and then you can bounce ideas off of each other and come up with even more useful ways to solve these problems and use a cheap ordinary material like conduit. So
Right.
that's great to hear, and I really appreciate your participation with that. It means a lot.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that was posted recently was about using the one holt straps, but having the wood hang from it down so that it's level as opposed to sitting up on top of that. And as soon as I saw somebody doing that, I thought, yeah, there's a place I can incorporate that for sure into what we're building. So it is nice to see other people post it. And I just hope I can contribute a little bit because you've got some people out there who are real pros, put together some really nice stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, like you're right. I've been strapping flat material to conduit for as long as I've been messing around with maker pipe. And that just the idea of using the one hole strap in that way to make it flush
Hmm.
never crossed my mind. And like,
Hmm.
so we think of that's a good idea worth spreading to and
Hmm.
amplifying to the community. So that's kind of how we think about what we do. And I hope we can show off some of the really ingenious stuff that you've come up with too, as well with your builds. But walk me through kind of what was the progression of your building because you did a roof rack. Was that the first build that you got started with?
Yeah. Yeah, I started with a roof rack. I was using the factory roof rack, which came with the element, and I can walk you over. The car's right over here,
Oh yeah,
and then you've got a picture of it there.
that'd be great because I got some media, but it doesn't. The real thing is way better.
And so the element has this huge flat roof, right? But the footprint of the roof rack is really narrow. There's just not a lot of distance between the two bars. And that's because there's a moon roof in the back, and that window opens up, and you need to be able to remove it from there.
Okay.
So, what I was looking for was something to give me some more space going forward and going back. And also to give me some extra width as well, because the original ones would end right here at the side of the car. since upgraded, and I've got something that's given me, another 6 inches on either side, so there's another foot to go there, which makes me more comfortable too, because now the kayak can sit on top of that and be supported by that as well as the curved maker pipe, which is, these pieces down here that I bent. And I have to admit, I'm a terrible conduit bender, but I have been getting a little bit better. These were my first attempts, so they're not quite even with each other, and there's a few corners in some of them, but having these, and I hauled it down to West Virginia for a weekend and came back, and there was no problem. It sat very well on there, but I do like having the extra support of the wider Thule rack underneath of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because Thule, I mean, they make a commercial option, right? So I think that was
Yes.
a good upgrade. And I've got a couple photos here of ones that you posted the community where looks like you were installing it on the car before you had the Thule rack. And it was cool because
Mhm.
I liked one thing that came out of this was I liked the rollers. You had the PVC pieces, sections of pipe that you slipped over the conduit and they acted as a roller, right, to get it up onto the top of the roof.
Right. Yeah. So this hangs over the side of the car, so I don't have to worry about damaging the car when I'm putting the kayaks up there. And need to be able to, or I want to be able to take this off when I'm not using it. And so I needed a roller that would somehow cover this and prevent the kayak from getting scratched up when it was rolling over the edge here. And when I put that on, it would just move out of the way so frequently. This smaller piece then allowed me just to kind of lock it down in place, and they'll still, the one will slide inside the other and give me more room to take that bolt out of there when I need to take this off.
Yeah. Wow. And that survived a road trip.
Yeah,
Oh my
of
gosh.
course.
Because because I always stress building within your limitations, right? And it looks great. And I think you did a good job. But it's really just the friction of the connector holding that, well, two connectors holding that U section in. So
Mhm.
I I especially stress anytime you're going down the highway, be really
Yeah.
confident in your builds. But that's great.
Well, there's some straps that I'll put on there as well. So it's
Yeah.
not the kayak's just not laying in there. There's also some ratchet straps involved.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's smart. Well, good. Yeah, that seemed like a great first project. And then kind of walk me through what's the elevation or not elevation, excuse me, the evolution. And I've got some media that I can kind of reference here if you want to talk us through it. But what were the next steps? Did you tackle after that?
I just went straight to into the bed, the sleeping platform right after that. And so, that's what we have here. I just started with a basic frame, and I liked you had some posts on the community about the slider beds, the ones that would slide out, that had the conduit that would come out of the PVC pipe. I was a little concerned about doing it that way just because the distance between the different pipes, and without a really thick mattress, my fear was that it would feel lumpy, or that, if I put my hand down and tried to stand up, that it would just go right down through there into the floor. And so I was wanted to do it with woods or wood slats, and I ended up going with plywood. So I just started with a real simple frame, and it was my first time using the 45-degree connectors, and I was pretty happy with how much rigidity that added to the build,
Uh,
because I was thinking I was going to be just fine without the 45s, and then it was really wobbly when I started to get on top of it. So I went and added those 45 degrees. It really helped with the rigidity, and now it's as strong as I need it to be.
that's great. I'm looking back in your Instagram here, Hank the Tank 724. And did you prototype with the minis? Is that what you were working on when you did that mini build?
Yep, that's exactly what that was.
How good. What do you feel like that was that a step you think you can skip next time, or was that helpful to do? What did you think about the minis?
I still use the minis. I'm reworking the rack a little bit right now, and I'm still using the minis. I think it helps me figure out what type of connectors that I need. So instead of me, getting halfway through a build and then, oh, I need two more 180s and placing that order and waiting 3 or 4 days for it to come, this helps me get all those orders prepared and make a big one all at once.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, boy, we've been printing a lot of we just keep those 3D printers rolling every at the shop. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm glad people like it. Um, but yeah, here's some. Are you able to see your screen while you have the
Yeah,
camera
yeah, I
going?
can see what you're showing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Are these some of the early build photos?
Yeah. So originally I had it on the left-hand side of the car, and then I moved it to the right. I like to keep the bike on the right-hand side, but it just wasn't working out with being able to flip it open. So I wanted to be able to hang some things above it, and they were just getting in the way. I want to keep that back rear passenger side window open so I can see the traffic.
Right.
And so it was better for me to then have the bike and my luggage and stuff over here on the left hand side. So the bed ended up on the right.
Nice. And then the main concept with this one was you've got this pull out section and then the wood
Hmm.
flips over with a hinge. Is that how that one primarily functioned? I think I
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So it slides out. So I took some of the ideas of using that PV of the conduit inside of the PVC, and I just ended up using 1/2 inch conduit inside of the 3/4 inch conduit. And so it slides out. Yep, you can see it there from when it was still on the other side. And it slips right out of there. And then with the plywood on top, I ended up making hinges out of webbing and just stapling it down.
Hmm,
I didn't like the piano hinges that I was originally using because things were getting scraped up on it. And I wanted something softer that would be lower profile. So I ended up using that instead.
oh neat. Yeah, it seems like this has really been an iterative process for you.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time focusing on it. So I'm just excited that the weather's finally changing, so I'll be able to get to use it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Cool. So what I have I think some pictures of version 1 finished, is that right?
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. So that's my first trial, and I'm going to keep that one. I was tooling around with some other ideas, but I'm going to be using this one for the foreseeable future at the moment. I may upgrade to something more like a Murphy bed as we go on, something that folds up against the driver's side window
Mhm.
in the back and then opens up from there. But I'd like to take this one out for a few weeks and just see how it goes first.
Is this the iteration that you're currently that you have there live with us?
Yeah, yeah, this is the one that's here. If you'd like, I can go ahead and pull it out and show it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So some of this would be a little hard to do with just one hand holding the camera, but this one slides forward and then it locks into place there. I'll just pull it out of the way. That would make the other part a little bit easier. And once this corner, so it takes like two hands to pull that forward. And when it opens up, it rests right on there.
Oh,
And so
cool.
there's the hinge that runs down the side. These metal clasps underneath keep them from wiggling around, so one doesn't get lower than the other, and you end up getting a pinch in there or an uneven surface. So it just flips right out,
Oh,
and
that's
so there's
smart.
the back half of it.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do a hinge. That's neat. Because that black part is webbing, you were saying, right?
Yep, that's webbing just with some staples down it.
Cool.
Not perfect. I could do a little bit better in measuring and get them all lined up in parallel, but but it's something for now. And then this box, a lot of people use camping boxes to keep their kitchens in and other things like that organized. So I was looking for a way to maximize that space as well. And so you showed a picture in there earlier about how it runs along the track. So it runs along one of the maker pipes down here as kind of a drawer roller as it comes out. And that keeps it up off the ground, which makes it a lot easier to push back in. There's a little bit more space here for prepping food. And then underneath, there's a pull out drawer, which will come out on either side, which just I can keep my canned goods and propane canisters and things like that in there.
Wow. That's amazing. Great job. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yep. There's a little bit more room in the back. I haven't decided what I want to put back there, if that'll be more foodstuffs or if that'll be the pillows and blankets and whatnot, but something will go back in here.
Right. Yeah. Less frequent access because it's all the way in the back. That's neat.
Yeah.
Jason, how again did you, because you were asking this question in the community about how to do a drawer slide. How exactly did you do the mechanism there that allows you to slide it in and out?
So it's not connected right now, just because I put it in just for us to be able to do this interview, but it runs along the track right here. So this screws onto the back of the box with some one hole straps that keeps it lifted up. So there's no friction on the ground when it comes pushed back in. Inside of here are some, let me get you a better angle so you can see it. Inside of the end of the conduit here are some rubber compression nuts. So those slide down inside. I put a washer on top of it, got a nut, and then put these eye straps in them and tightened them up until they expanded. And then I cut the excess rubber around the outside, and it just slides back and forth.
Oh, so neat. Okay, yeah, I do remember seeing that, and I think I saw that on your Instagram too. You had a little video about the different components and
Yep,
that you used. That's neat.
you got it. There it is.
Cool. Okay.
So I had one of the star shaped pipe inserts to try to do this with. The issue is the biggest one's what's that? It's a quarter 20 for thread size, and I just couldn't get a one eye hook that with that thread size that was big enough to fit around a 3/4 inch conduit.
Right. What
So
was
I
the
needed to.
thread size that you ended up needing?
That's a good
Like
question.
three
It's
eight
been a
16,
while.
probably.
It's been about a month or two now since I put that together. I can't remember what thread size I ended up using.
Okay, no sweat. Yeah, but that's a neat way because I'm really I'm really interested in adding more linear motion and finding unique ideas to kind of to do that inexpensively with Conduit. And of course, I've seen things like there's a router, a CNC router that is 3D printed, made out of conduit called the MP CNC, mostly printed CNC. But the parts are complex and they use skateboard bearings, and is overkill for something like you're trying to do just to make that drawer slide. So I think that's a really neat low cost solution on how to do linear motion, and make something move.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking for something low cost. Right now, as I said, I was connecting it with those single eye straps, but I might use some type of Z bracket so that it just rests on top of there. So when I do get it pulled out, then I can lift it up out of there and take it over to the kitchen table or the picnic table.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, and you can almost imagine if you had like a little roller to incorporate to just, to slide on that conduit, that would be a neat solution as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of things to think about. That's a great idea. That's what gets the kind of ball rolling for a lot of different
right.
people.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some wheels available out there that would fit over top of the conduit. They don't have the exact same curvature of it. They're a little bit too small. And I had picked up a few of those in order to do it. I decided against it just because it wasn't necessary. In this build, I didn't think that I needed. There's really not a whole lot of friction on there. If there ever is, I can add a little bit of of lubricant to loosen it up.
Right. Yeah, but I see what you mean about a Z bracket and how it just would rest right on top of that rail, that piece of conduit.
Mhm.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, great idea. Uh, that's neat. So, where did you go from there?
Well, so that's been pretty much it with the kitchen build and with the bed build. So I've looked at a few other options, like I said, about what I might do in the future, but I really want to see what I can do with this one before I go making uh, too many changes. I have been looking at some hinges to use in the upcoming build and also to put solar panels. I want to be able to articulate the solar panels
Mhm.
so that they can pick up the maximum amount of sun. So I've been messing a little bit with hinges, and I've got a few examples here. This one is used for curtains around bay windows. And so you can loosen it up here. It's the same size as the maker pipe screws or bolts. So you can loosen that up. It fits in here pretty well. I ended up using, you can see on this end, I ended up using some of the shrink wraps to get it to fit really well. And I like this because it has two connection points. So you tighten both of these up and you're not getting that wiggle that I found. I had a previous one that I was really enjoying because this one's stainless steel and it's built for boats, but it only has one connection point. And even with the straps, I'd put them in there, even with the shrink wrap, and they would still wiggle in there because there's only that one holding it in place. I love this one because it does the whole 180-degree of motion and it locks here. So it'll take force on top of it and won't collapse underneath. Right. So it's got that locking mechanism built in and then a cotter pin, which allows you to actually lock it in there so it won't go either way.
Mhm.
So it would be great, but like I said, maybe I could tap out another hole in here and thread it, but not something I'm planning on doing right now.
Gotcha. And then you've teased this one too, which I thought was really cool, where it threaded
Yeah,
into inserts and then it kind of had an
right.
articulating elbow. That was neat. What was this
Hmm.
item that you found?
That was also for windows. It was also for curtain rods going around bay windows. So yeah, I've got one of those here as well. This one, it does almost the exact same thing. It's a Phillips head here instead. The one thing didn't like so much about this one is it seems like it loosens up a little bit easier than the other one.
Mm,
So it can articulate, it'll start to bend unless you've really cranked down on this screw. Not to say that it wouldn't be good for a lot of uses, but when I start putting solar panels up on the roof, I want to make sure it's not going to move when I don't want it to.
yeah, for sure. Well, that definitely needs to be a solid. Have you taken a look? Have you seen the Hinge video that we did last year? It was more aimed at gardening, but Jake did.
Mhm.
I think it was Hinge 8 ways. Did you happen to see that one?
I have seen that one, yeah.
Okay.
And so those tended to be doors that would open. Yeah, but there were some great ideas in there as well. One of the ones that I was incorporating was just using the T connectors without the straps in them and bands in them
Right.
and being able to bend that way. So those worked really nicely.
Neat. Yeah. Good. It sounds like you've checked out the videos. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do. Well, sometimes there's a lot of inspiration in those.
Nice. But I'm looking at your Instagram and I've seen some of these. I mean, you're really experimenting with some of the articulation and the different kind of hinge ideas here. Um,
Right. That that one was pretty exciting, the one that you're looking at right now, because it'll take a lot of support from the top and it uses just maker pipe pieces, which if I can get away with just using the maker pipe pieces, I will. And so I'm excited about the possibility of doing this one if I ever do upgrade the bed to something more like a futon that'll fold up in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's neat. Well, I think you're onto something. I think your ideas and um, are really cool. Have you had much interest from the community, the element community?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of people reaching out and just asking about it, or just a lot of views on the video. The one thing I'm excited about is I'll be down in your neck of the woods come early May. And so there's an annual gathering down there of elements not far from where you are, about an hour and a half away. So I'll take Hank down and we'll be camping there for 3 or 4 nights with 120 other elements and just be sharing our builds with each other and talking about different hacks and upgrades that we've done to the vehicles. So I'm really interested to see what type of feedback I get from the community there, and maybe I can learn a thing or two from them about some new ideas to bring home.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Do you have to have an element to show up?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure you guys, in fact, I think it was Jake I was probably talking to. I said, I'll be down and I might swing by you guys the day before, like on the Wednesday, come down to the shop and see you. And I'm sure people would be really interested in the maker pipe if you wanted to come up and just walk around the campground, see what's going on.
Oh my gosh, that would be really fun, Jason. You have an open invitation to our shop. We'd love to have you come by and meet with you in person and see your build in person for sure. And then that sounds really fun. What's the is there like an official name to the get together?
Yeah, it's Elements on the Dragon, or yeah, Elements on the Dragon is what it's called. So you'll be able to find on Instagram.
Oh wow. Is it I mean like Tail of the Dragon? Is that what they're referring to on the dragon?
Exactly. So that's the drive we'll be doing on Saturday.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a famous road near us that is
Yeah.
it's got I mean, everybody flocks to it on any kind of vehicle, elements included, right? I always think about
Yep.
motorcycles on Tail of the Dragon, but elements on the dragon. Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic time. There's where it is in North Carolina and some information on Facebook on May 8th. Oh, cool. Here's a picture of all the elements. Nice. That's great.
Yeah. So you guys are what? Maybe about an hour and 15 minutes away from that?
Yeah, it's not far at all. And
Okay.
it's right out of the mountains and any chance to get up there, it's a joy going into the that whole part of the country. But yeah, stop by and maybe we'll come up and take a look. I know Jake's been working on his Astro van. That's been his project and
Hmm.
we've got a transit van that we use for moving material around in our, to our coder and different things. We put pallets in it. So, like you, I got to come up with a modular solution to use that thing, on the weekends and stuff like that. So maybe we'll have to come up. That's cool.
So is Jake using any maker pipe stuff in his build?
you know, we've been talking about this for so long, and especially Jake's project. It's been a work in progress for a while. If we'd stopped working on Maker Pipe to actually, work on our vans, I think we'd be ahead of the game. So you're leading the way, Jason, for sure.
Well, I'd love to see what you guys can come up with.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of ideas, roof racks and things like all the kind of typical camper van sort of stuff. So maybe down the road we'll have some time to work on that. Um,
Hmm.
because we've talked video series and all this stuff, but it's a neat it's a neat problem to solve, and I see you're having a lot of fun with it as well. So it's great to see your solutions, and I really appreciate you sharing it.
Sure. The one thing about the maker pipe is, I think I said it at the beginning of the interview, is you can start making something if it doesn't work out, you take it apart and you recut it. And so, sometimes I'll throw away some conduit at the end of the day, but I'm not losing a whole lot of money. I still have the pieces, I still have all the fittings, and I can use them again on another project and just see what works for me. Sometimes using the minis is a great way to get started, but you don't see exactly what you're getting until you start putting it together. And especially with the measurements, oh, I need another quarter inch here. If you're trying to do it inside of an existing area like a car, there's not a lot of straight angles inside of this element. So you've got to be able to shave a little bit off here and add a little bit there. And even in these things, the floor slope, the floor is not flat. So the floor slope forward. So the legs of the bed in the back have to be shorter than the legs in the front. You don't realize that until you get working on it. You can't figure out why nothing's level.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I'm glad it's helpful for that. And the bracing too, figuring out how to make the structure stronger, right? You mentioned that when you just boxed it in, it wasn't as strong, it was wiggly, right? But then you added the
Mhm.
45s and that's how I build too. I'll kind of come up with the overall structure and then see where
Mhm.
I need, reinforcement as far as strength goes.
Yeah, and one of the things about the car is finding those connection points. Where can you attach your build in the car? So being able to find those areas where there's maybe a clamp for like a hook for a seat, or maybe something you can zip tie to. That's always a little bit of a challenge, is anchoring stuff down.
Yeah, that's for sure. Um, do you have any D hooks or there are any mounting points in the element that you can take advantage of?
Yeah, yeah. Luckily there are, so I can go ahead. We've got, when the seats come out, so we're left with these down here, which is a great place to hook in. Also, I don't know if you can see down there, you can see there's some openings to a little storage area, which I've got zip tied to right now. And then there's actually on this side, you can see I've a panel off because I'm experimenting with connect it over here. And this is that railing or that track that you use to hang conduit from. And so I just cut it to length and it bolts right in here. This is where the seat bracket goes. And coincidentally, 3/4 inch conduit sits pretty much right on. And then I can use those tie downs to connect it in there, and it holds pretty stable. So that's one of the options I'm looking at for maybe doing over on this side, to put the bed down so it doesn't wiggle as much.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, the problem solving continues. I'm excited to see more of the iterations as you go for it. But I got to ask, why did they stop? They stopped making the element, right?
Right? So there's the rumor all the time that they're bringing it back, but you know, they needed the plant for something else. They were moving on to another car, and they needed the plant for something else. But it is a great vehicle. I've really fallen in love with it over this past year. It was probably 15 years ago that I got in my very first one, and just fell in love with it right then. But my situation didn't allow me to have one until now. And so I was finally able to fulfill that dream after so many years. I'm trying to take advantage of it, just do as much as I can out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It is a unique vehicle and it's really cool and I like seeing yours. What other kind of things do you have planned for the element? You mentioned the roof rack. What other stuff would you like to do to it?
Well, it's got the roof rack on it, and in that, I'm incorporating a solar shower and a canopy that comes out, or bimini for some sunshade. Once I get the solar panels hooked up, then I've got to start looking at some power sources. So getting some batteries in. I want to pull the spare tire out and mount that some of the battery spare compartment. So that'll be fun to see how that ends up. It might end up on the roof rack for a little while until I can find a more permanent solution. Something maybe off of the 2-inch receiver, off of the back, mount it on there somehow or find another solution.
Nice. Nice. Well, we'll definitely keep up with your build. Is the Instagram Hank the Tank 724 the best way to kind of keep up with the progress?
Yeah, that's where I post just about everything. So if you're interested, go ahead,
Okay.
check me out on there.
Awesome. Well, can I do anything for you, Jason? Anything else you need? Any requests?
No, I think everything's going real well. I've got an order to place pretty soon, so I'll be doing that. I realized I'm out of star fittings, and I'm considering. I've been watching the videos about painting the conduit, so I don't think other than that, 'cause when I do the roof rack, I plan on probably painting that, either that or using the shrink wrap that you sell. But it would be an awful lot of shrink wrap that I'd need to cover the whole thing.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, when you place another order, definitely let us know. Maybe we'll throw some goodies in or something like that with your next order. But I want to thank you very much for your business and being a part of the community.
Okay.
Really means a lot to us. I think your build's fantastic, and I enjoyed seeing it.
Well, thanks, David. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, yeah, pleasure talking to you, and hopefully again in the future. Keep us updated on your plans and come by the shop, and we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I hope to. I hope to. So I'll see you in May, maybe.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jason. Take care.